All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Adams Brothers Podcast. Happy hump day to each and every last one of you watching out there in Facebook and YouTube land. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's a beautiful sunny day here in South Florida. Well, at least it is now. We are joined here this afternoon with attorney Veronica N. Walker. She is a candidate for Broward County judge in the 17th Judicial Circuit, I believe.
Yep, Group
and
11.
It's in Group 11. And she's currently working down at the Broward County State's Attorney's Office as an assistant prosecutor. We'd like to welcome Miss Veronica N. Walker to the Adams Brothers Podcast. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And we're happy to have you here. And we hope that our viewers out there in Facebook and YouTube land will be watching so they know who to vote for on August the 18th, which is coming up in about 3 weeks, I believe. So why don't we start out by introducing yourself and tell the voters out there in Broward County a little bit about Veronica N. Walker and who you are and anything you want them to know about you.
Yeah, so my name is Veronica Walker. I've been a long-time Broward resident. I lived in Miramar my entire life, so I'm South Broward, not quite Deerfield, but I have been here and I'm dedicated to serving our community. I am an assistant state attorney with the Broward State Attorney's Office. Currently, I'm the chief of our hate crimes unit, where I prosecute crimes where people are targeted because of the color of their skin, their sexual orientation, religion, homeless status, age, disability, and stuff like that, as well as public corruption, where we prosecute cases of police misconduct or government official misconduct. And I've been there for about 10 years now. When I graduated law school, I knew that I wanted to go into public service. My mom was a public school teacher in Miami-Dade County, so I would go to school with her. So although I grew up in Miramar, I went to public school in Miami. I graduated from Miami Central Senior High School, so I know how to be in the fire and fight my way out. So, and from there, I attended Tennessee State University. I know a lot of people disagree with me, but that's the best HBCU in the United States of America. There, I got my bachelor's and my master's in public administration, and then I went to law school. I did teach for 1 year, and in that 1 year, I knew that teaching just wasn't for me. So I decided to take the LSAT and go to law school. My father retired from law enforcement. He was in the Coast Guard for over 30 years. But my grandfather was a barber for 60 years in Nashville. He also was a councilman for 16 years and a deacon at the church. And I would go to the barbershop all the time with him as a kid in the summers and just sit there. And people would come into the barbershop just arguing with all their problems and wanting him to fix it. And I learned early on that to be effective at your job, you have to listen and listen to all of the facts of the problems before you can offer an opinion or a solution to the problem, which made him very successful as a councilman in Nashville. And I took that with me. And so I knew early on that I wanted to be in a career where I'm solving problems. So I went to the state attorney's office, and it was perfect for me because it's a way for me to give back to my community. I'm serving Broward County, and it was a full circle moment for me. After spending years in a county court and prosecuting cases there, I worked my way up to the felony trial unit. And then when we had the opportunity to apply for the hate crimes grant, we received it, and I applied for the position and got it. And I was really happy to get that position because there was an incident when I was in college where I had traveled to Gina, Louisiana for the Gina 6 March back then. And I think it was around like 2007. It was a huge march back then. But nevertheless, while I was there, this man had hung a noose and threatened me with it. And I reported it to the police, and I was able to prosecute my case with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. And so that taught me early on. And when they came and talked to me about the case, the first thing I said was, well, how can I do what you do? Because you just validated my feelings. I had never experienced that type of racism before. So I would love to do that. And so when the opportunity came for me to work in hate crimes, of course, I jumped on it and I received the position, and I have been in that position since 2021. Yeah.
I remember the Jenna 6. You just brought back some memories. I had forgot about them to just now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in undergrad, and my, how HBCUs do. We have partnered with the NAACP, and they bust us down there, and we was down marching.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Like I said, it's always a good time to get into some good trouble. So that's some good trouble. So, all right. Well, thank you for that introduction of yourself. And let's talk a little bit about judicial philosophy. It'll lead me into my first question. You're running for Broward County Judge in the 17th Judicial Court, Group 11.
Mm-hmm.
And my first question to you is, why did you decide now is the right time to seek a seat on the Broward County Court?
Quite frankly, when I was thinking about it, I've been here, in court every day. I know people look at the years, but I think you have to look at not the quantity, but the quality of the years. And for me, I'm in the courtroom every single day, and I have been in front of every criminal court judge in Broward County. So I see the temperaments. I see how I understand the culture of the courtroom, interacting with the court staff and the clerk's office and the bailiffs and defense attorneys, witnesses and victims, and handling high volume cases and dockets. And I was thinking, like, why not? I see, I'm 40 years old. I'm at a time in my life where I have gained this experience, and I want to serve my community, but in a different capacity, in that capacity as a judge. I couldn't think of a reason why I shouldn't do it. And so it kind of affirmed to me that I should do it.
Okay.
I know that answer is kind of off color, but, I have been working at the courthouse for 10 years now. I have jury trial experience. I've tried cases from misdemeanors as small as petty thefts all the way up to homicides at this point. And I investigate my own cases. I file them. I see litigation from the start to the finish. I have gained the experience. So I want to take my experience and contribute to the judiciary in Broward County.
Well, I'm a firm believer that you always get that gut feeling when it's the right time to make a move. Mm-hmm. Career-wise, I don't know if it's for a job promotion or whatever. You always get that gut feeling. This is the right time for me to make this move and advance it to something a little different. It's like another chapter in the book of your life,
Yeah.
So,
and I am a woman of faith, and I feel that sometimes, God could put you in a position to make you uncomfortable, and then you have to explore why you feel uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable because I'm too comfortable doing it, so I need to challenge myself. And so I answered that, and I'm just being obedient and running.
There you go. I like that. And what qualities do you believe in every county court judge must possess?
Oftentimes, we all know that they call county court the people's court. People say that all the time. And it's really true, because oftentimes it's the first experience that they have with the courtroom. And hopefully most times that's the only experience they're going to have. We don't want them to go to the circuit court. But I think that to be good at what you do as a judge, you need to be able to have a temperament where you're able to be patient and listen. Everyone has a right to be heard. And I think that sometimes, you get into a position where, some attorneys want to rush the process, like, oh, I don't want to wait for this interpreter. Can we just move it along? But no, you can't do that, because your name is not on the case. The person before the bench, the person that is charged, the person who is bringing the complaint name is on the case, and that's going to affect them. And so I think we have to be mindful of the fact that this is like, we're dealing with people's lives right now. So I think that, being patient, being someone that listens, that has the right temperament, and treating everyone with dignity and respect. It's not something that, I think is earned in the courtroom. I think it's an obligation. When people come through that door, you leave your biases out that door, and you treat every person that comes before you equally, and you apply the law equally. So that's my judicial philosophy, is that that's how we build trust in the criminal justice system. You know, we can't be inconsistent and treat one person one way and another person, or do a favor for this person or not. You have to be able to apply the law equally to everyone and make sure that we're doing it consistently so that we can build the trust in the community.
And that was kind of like going to answer my next question too, because you kind of touched on it there. I was going to ask you, how would you define judicial impartiality, and how will you ensure that every litigant receives a fair hearing? So you kind of touched on it a little bit, but you can kind of add on to it if you want.
And you know, when it comes to judicial independence, I think that's very important, because a lot of times we see how there could be media pressure, there could be political pressure, the community wants you to do something, but you have to be able to cancel out all that noise and be able to look only at your case and the facts, because the moment that influence get into the courtroom, then you lose your judicial independence. And as a prosecutor, you know, doing hate crimes, a lot of my cases are media cases. You know, I've had a case where a guy was beaten blind, and, you know, we had to drop that case because the evidence was insufficient. But of course, because it was rooted in, like, you know, I believe it was based off of sexual orientation. You had a whole community of people that wanted to see justice, but the issue was we just didn't have enough to, you know, go forward in good faith. And you have to be able to be strong enough to make those difficult decisions, even when it's unpopular to the community, because you'll be doing disservice. Your job is to apply the law, not to be an activist on the bench. And I think that's where, you know, we have to draw the line when it comes to judicial independence and being sovereign in the courtroom and building that dignity and trust with our courtrooms.
Okay, I want to show you one before I let my brother. I want to show you a question from one of our viewers. He says that I feel that Miss Walker will be an excellent judge. Folks should vote for her. That's from Daniel Marco Murillo. Malari. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel.
So
you have another one there too, Shakima.
Oh, we have another comment up there that says she is the right woman for the job. So look, you're getting we have some viewers that's out here endorsing you already. So keep up the good work. So I'm gonna let my brother ask you some questions.
And I try to always ask this here to judicial candidates. Have you ever been disciplined by the Florida bar?
No, I have not.
Okay. And my next question would be, how would you ensure every person who enters your courtroom feels they were treated fairly and respectably? How would you ensure that?
And, you know, I think that goes back to what I was talking about with consistency, you know, treating everybody with dignity and respect and applying the law fairly across the board. And I think that it's important that, you know, when people come before the court, that they feel seen and heard. Most times in county court, you know, we experience a lot of litigants who don't have representation. And it could be very intimidating and scary for them. And though I can't provide legal advice from the bench, I can ensure that they have the opportunity to speak on the record, that they have their access to justice, that they are being seen and heard, just like any other person in the courtroom, you know. And if there's any available resources, you know, that I can provide, then of course I'm going to do that. Whether that person may be someone who doesn't speak English. We've had cases where we had to reset because this person may have spoken Bangladeshi or Ukrainian, some type of language that isn't easily accessible. In the courthouse, it's easier for us to get Spanish and Creole interpreters, but outside of that, most times we either have to delay the hearing to the afternoon or reset it. And those are things that needs to be discussed up front, so that they can understand that's what's happening in the process. I do understand that sometimes, you know, when it comes to the language barrier, some people could speak in conversation, but when it comes to legalese and procedure, you want to make sure that they understand that's what's happening. So I think just being consistent, treating everyone fairly across the board, no matter their station in life, I think that I can ensure, and I know that I can ensure because I understand that, you know, being, you know, as a minority, that you want to make sure that your voice is heard, because too often times that we feel that we aren't heard.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah. And also, Ms. Walker, how important is it? How important is judicial independence, and how would you maintain it?
Judicial independence is very important. You know, like I stated, you don't want the outside noise to come into the courtroom. You know, and sway your decisions. You have to look at the statutes and the Constitution and the binding precedent and the case laws that came before us, and you apply it to the facts as given. There could be marching outside and protesting and raising all type of chaos, but I can't take that information and bring it to the courtroom and consider like, oh, okay, I know the community is really pissed about this. Maybe I need to consider doing this. That's when you lose your independence. I had a case where there was a Chabad that caught fire off of Las Olas. It was a charging decision that I chose not to go forward with a hate crime because the alleged defendant, tried to set fire to a coffee shop. So I couldn't prove that, he intentionally did it because of a religious reason. But however, in the midst of that, I received about 6,000 emails from across the country and people calling and cussing me out about it, saying that I don't care about this, that, and that. But I could not go forward on that because the statute says something different. I have to prove that this person targeted intentionally because of this affiliation with the religion or ancestry. And I couldn't do that. And so that is a great demonstration of my independence, my prosecutorial independence. And I think that, my experience being a prosecutor, making these decisions already and being able to receive investigations from the police department and determining whether I have a good faith basis to charge someone with the crime or not has given me the skills and the qualifications to be quite successful on the bench. And I think that I could contribute substantially to Broward County, which is why I do want to run. And I hope that I could earn the votes of Broward County and be the next county court judge.
You're well on your way. I can tell you that much. So keep up the good work. So.
Yeah. And Ms. Walker, what do you see as the biggest challenge facing Broward County Court today?
There's so many challenges. I know a lot of people talk about the backlog of cases because we receive so many. But from an evidentiary's point of view, I see the emerging AI and the digital evidence issues becoming every day. We're updating, our system, trying to keep up with it. But we see what's happening in the world. We're seeing how these emerging technologies are becoming more realistic and trying to keep up with what people are, creating. I think that might become an issue for the courts. And I know they have been working on it and, trying to keep up with it and trying to counter it. But it seems like one of those situations that as soon as you counter it, then there's something new that has emerged in a way of digital evidence. So I think digital evidence, I think the backlog of cases, we had a high turnover of prosecutors and public defenders during COVID. It was like we called it an exodus, and a lot of people left and went into private practice because that's where the money was at. And so when you have that amount of people leaving, our divisions that are normally 3 people per courtroom are now 2. So that means that our attorneys are doing double the work. And so having the staffing and having enough, I think that Broward County should actually look into opening more divisions, opening more courtrooms, because just to keep up with it, because it's a lot of cases.
And what about like little satellite courthouses around the county? How do you feel about that?
So as a prosecutor, they send us the satellite during our county years and misdemeanor. And so I was sent to the Hollywood location, South Satellite. they need to update the courtrooms for number one, especially Hollywood, because I felt like I was like, why am I here? But I did enjoy it there because that's where I learned how to case file. In the satellites, we do a lot of traffic criminal cases, and we do a lot of cases where there's cases where defendants are violating municipality laws. So you get a lot of homeless cases there as well. I think the satellites are pretty good. I didn't see an issue with them. I think we had court maybe like 3 or 4 times a week, but I can only speak to South Satellite. I can't speak to the North or the West because that's where I was assigned. But I enjoyed being at South Satellite.
Yeah.
I didn't have any complaints.
I've been to the North.
You know, you at South Satellite, you're not at Central, so you kind of away from the, the eye.
We got one here in Deerfield.
Deerfield up here, North Satellite. Courthouse
in Deerfield.
Not that busy, but most of the things they're very important things. They'll send you downtown for that. So.
Right, because if you're going to request a jury trial, then you have to go downtown. But the satellites can handle bench trials and your traffic criminal cases and small claims.
Right. Okay, let's talk. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh no, because you mentioned North Satellite, and it made me think about the seat that I'm running for. It's an open seat because there is a judge in the North Satellite that is retiring.
DeLuca, was it DeLuca or something like that? Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about your experience. We know you work down at the state's attorney's office and as assistant prosecutor, and I'm sure you've been in all kind of situations down there, difficult situations. But can you describe a difficult legal matter you handle and what it taught you about justice?
So there was this case, maybe about 5 years ago. This guy had entered the residential yard of someone, and he took some mangoes and limes, right? And so on the face of it, being a South Floridian, you're like, okay, he took some mangoes and limes. You know, that's something that kids do. They jump the fence to take people mangoes out their tree. But
we did it.
I can't confess. But this guy, he went in, he took about 15 mangoes and 3 limes out the tree. However, the resident was upset about it. He reported the crime, and it came back as a burglary of a residence, which is a 2nd-degree felony. And the maximum for that crime was 15 years Florida State Prison. And this guy actually had a criminal history. So when I got the case, I was like, are we going to go forward on this burglary? And so I spoke with the victim. They wanted some incarceration time. And
mangoes? Wow.
So I looked at the case, and so I went to my supervisor because at the time I didn't have full discretion to ask, hey, can I offer something below the sentencing guidelines for mangoes? Can I do a change of charge? And so the first person was like, no, it's too soon to do that. And so I waited a couple weeks, and then I asked a second supervisor, and then they agreed that I could change the charge to a misdemeanor, but to offer some jail time. I still wasn't satisfied with that either. And so then I went to another person, so eventually I was able to get it down to a misdemeanor trespass and a time served. But it taught me that just because the charge says a burglary, it doesn't always mean that it is as heinous as it sounds. You have to look at the facts of the case. Someone taking mangoes out of a tree is different from someone climbing through the window and taking a TV. And so sometimes the facts don't arise to the level of exposure that someone may have because of their criminal history or because of the level of the felony. And I think that when we're looking at these type of cases, we have to determine what is the best interest of justice? Is this going to best serve Broward County to send someone away for taking some mangoes out of a tree? No, the guy was homeless. So, although I was met with, some a couple of no's, I knew that I had to keep asking and that I shouldn't resolve that case because I felt personally I could not do that in good faith. And so I think that is something that would speak to my integrity, but also shows how, when you're looking at these cases and we're looking at our punishment, how do we balance that? It goes to the scales of justice, Does these facts, just because it says that it's a burglary, deserve someone to go for 15 years over some mangoes? And so those are things that you have to weigh. And, that taught me a lot as a prosecutor.
That's a very good story. I mean, that's interesting because back in our day, we were up in the sea grape trees, the coconut trees, the ganap, Spanish limes, we call them here. And
yes,
I would
mangoes
feel,
definitely for me.
Yeah, so I mean, we took things like that, we know we weren't supposed to, but they took them from us as well. But man, that's a lot. That was kind of harsh. That was some harsh charges right there. And I'm glad you
resolved
it, and got those charges reduced and not just let him off completely, but he deserved to get something, and satisfy the homeowner, the person that was victimized. Yeah.
He was arrested for it, but we had enough to go forward in good faith because it did meet all of the elements. But I am happy that we were able to resolve it with something, that I think was more fair and just in that case.
Yeah, and my question leading to that, that was one of my questions was there ever a case that really shook your faith in the justice system? Have you ever handled one as a prosecutor that shook your faith?
That was one. It took me months to fight for that.
I know. That's why I say that was a question me leading up to. That was one of my questions there. Yeah. And when you explained that, I'm like, that was the case.
That was during a different administration. I started the state attorney's office in 2017. So, things was kind of different back then. But yeah, I was like, okay, y'all really gonna let me fight for this? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, being down in the court at the courthouse, sometimes you have families in there. You have the victim side, and then you have the defendant side. Did I say that right? The defendant. You have two sides, two families in, and then a lot of times, emotions can run very, very high in there, and you might want one side might want this person to go to prison and go to jail for a long time, and then you got the family members and they're looking at each other and giving each other the eye in there and everything. And I know that's the police's job, but a little bit about courtroom management. How would you maintain professionalism and decorum in a courtroom when emotions run high?
Hey, that is so important. Like, you got to have a plan. Everybody has to be in that plan, especially the bailiffs, your clerk, your staff. Everyone has to be. I could tell you a quick story. This happened about 2 years ago. I was in court, and the guy was at the podium with his attorney, and I'm sitting at the state table, and the judge is revoking his bond. And, he's just backing up, and I'm looking around, and the bailiff is nowhere. And so the judge is like, bailiff, take him into custody. And the bailiff is nowhere. And so he's backing up, and then he's standing next to me. And so the judge is like, sir, you are going into custody. And he's looking at me. He was like, I'm not touching him. Like, what do you want me to do? And then he runs out of the courtroom, and he's gone. And I'm just looking like, it's not my case, but the thing is, when there's no order, things get out of order. And, now you have this defendant that has left the courtroom who needed to be remanded into custody, but you didn't have anyone there. And so I think it's really important that, you have your players in place and you be able to maintain control of the courtroom. And sometimes you do have people in the gallery that, that speak out of turn, where you're in the middle of a hearing and they want to testify on behalf of their loved one, or they want to talk to someone in the gallery box when you can't talk to people in the gallery box. But you have to nip that in the bud immediately, because if you let it fester, then everyone will start to do it, and then you lose control. And so I think you just have to be on top of it and, stick to the rules of the courtroom that you want to instill there. For me, I will make sure that I have my staff in place. Don't take no bathroom break when I'm trying to remand someone. But yeah, just having everyone in place, I think that is very helpful, because you don't want that. That could be a public safety issue. And, that wasn't my case. I wasn't a prosecutor on the case, so I don't know what he was charged with. But I thought about it. I'm like, what if, the victim was outside? That could have been really bad.
And I want to share a little story, because I remember when my emotions were high, when my brother was, he can probably attest to this too. And we were down, and when our sister was murdered back in 86, 87.
It happened back in 86.
And we talked a little bit about it off camera, and it was unsolved. It was a cold case for 27 years. And finally we were sitting in the courtroom, and it was
2015, 16?
2015. It was we were sitting in the courtroom, and they were about to sentence this guy that killed our sister. And the judge, she took control of the courtroom. She could tell, because this is like 20, almost 30 years of frustration. And she said, I don't want to call her name, but she said, I don't want you to look at that person, the defendant. I want you to look at me. And I felt, I kind of got a little angry. But we waited 30 years for this, and now you're going to tell me that we can't look at this animal?
Talk to the court.
So my emotions started getting really, and I started shaking and everything. And I'm like, I don't think that this is right, And I started to say something, but I didn't want to be held in contempt of court and get taken off to jail. And the time when I'm speaking, I have to look at the judge and tell my story of, and the press is there. And the defendant is over there with the smirk on his face, like laughing at us the whole time. After you murdered our sister, and then 29 years, and then we're sitting there, and we can't even look at him. I didn't.
You guys went dark. I can't see you guys. I can't see or hear you. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Is anyone? I think can you guys see the Adams brothers? Can someone comment that they're on or not? I can't tell. Well, until they come on, I would talk a little bit more about myself. But as I stated, I'm a prosecutor at the state attorney's office. Been there for the past 10 years, prosecuting cases and hate crimes. I prosecute county court cases. In county court, I dealt with a lot of high volume cases and a lot of high demand. And I think that definitely prepares you to deal with high stressful situations. There were times where we would have about 100 cases on the docket that we would have to schedule for hearings. And, being able to handle all of those hearings at one time with just another prosecutor, I think that definitely prepared me for this new role. And then there were times where, the judge would put 20, 30 cases on a Monday for jury trial. And you just have to be prepared for all of them, because you can only try one case at a time. So it definitely was, a trial by fire situation. Oh, okay, they're back on. I was just talking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we
I
like
can't hear you.
strange.
Y'all on mute.
Strange. Okay, we on mute. Okay.
Let me unmute her.
Check the mics again too.
I was going to improvise.
Yeah.
I started.
I was like, I'm live, so.
Give us a second here. Let us check.
But you
Yeah,
guys
just
have to
check them
connect
out.
to the audio.
Yes, yes. Can you hear us now? Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
I still can't hear you.
Okay.
Mute the mic. I'm trying to figure out what. High vertical.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear
can't
you.
you guys.
We can
I don't
hear
think
you.
Yeah, we can hear you. We don't know why
Are
we can't.
connected to
You
the
can't.
audio.
Media. Oh, it looks like it's coming back up. I see Facebook back up. So bear with us, everyone. We're trying to get this. We had a power flicker over here.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Might have to turn this off and turn it back on.
No, the mic up. I can see them. They working here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to owe me a do-over at some point because I can't hear nothing.
Man,
We can hear. You know, we can hear everything you're saying, though. We don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Still can't hear us?
Can you hear us now?
No sound from you guys.
Okay.
Check the microphones here. What the microphones got on here? I don't understand what happened.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up and rejoin. And see if
Okay,
that
thank
works.
you.
Yeah, do that.
Yes, yes.
All right, ladies and
You
gentlemen.
want me to turn this off here and turn it back on? Can you hear us now?
I can hear you now.
You know, strangest thing happened in about 5 years. All of a sudden, we lost power over here. The whole street over here lost power.
Yeah.
What?
We are very, very sorry. We had no control over that. I mean, luckily, make sure we're still on live here. If you want to do over, we could do another do over, but it's still live though.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, we didn't. Oh man, you talking about?
But still, we could just go back. We're back live. We apologize for the technical difficulties. We had a power failure here over here in the area, and
they try to sativage me.
Yeah, they trying to sabotage you, but that ain't gonna stop you. God got you though.
We it's not gonna stop you. Even after this interview, we'll bring you back again for a second one again. So we'll just continue with this one here, and we'll put the full video up on both of our platforms, so we can go back in now. And I was telling the story before we were rudely interrupted by the power company that I was in the courtroom and I was facing the judge the whole time, and my emotions. We were talking about courtroom management and how she handled it. We weren't able to face this devil that killed our sister, and he laughed at us after he received 30 years. he was sentenced under the guidelines when he murdered our
guideline.
sister. So he knew that off of 30 years, he would only get 15. He had been in the county jail for 8 or 9 years. So he only did 6 years in prison, and he laughed at us on the way out of the courtroom. And I tell you, my emotions were really, really high. And that's why I wanted to ask you one of those questions about courtroom management, and how you would handle it. Yeah.
And that kind of goes to like, in each courtroom, each judge has a different personality and a different life experience and how they handle things. And I know in some courtrooms where I've had cases, my victims are allowed to look and say however they feel to the defendant because that's their moment. And the family, there's a true human impact that these cases have on families. So it really just depends on the type of judge. In court, we have something called the confrontation clause where defendants have a right to, confront their accusers, but also victims have rights to also be present, to be at every hearing, to, also, work with the courts and to like give their opinion and make statements. So it really depends on that type of judge, in that case. So I can't speak to why she didn't let you look at him, but I had cases where my victims get up there and like, it was you did, that they have that opportunity because that validates them. It affirms their feelings. You are a victim of a crime, or this person harmed you in some way. You want to feel whole. So it kind of goes to, just the different judges.
Yeah, and we had waited 30 years for that, to face this guy. And we didn't.
I can't imagine.
And he was sitting, seriously, he was sitting literally
10 feet away from us.
If 10 feet. And he sit there, he wouldn't look. Every time me and my brother spoke, he looked the other way. And it was like when my parents spoke, he looked over there at my parents, but he would not look at us. But we were told not to even look at him.
We couldn't even look at him.
I mean, you wait this long for justice, and it was, I felt just like my brother. I felt so bad that day. I felt like we were cheated because you wait this long, and the things that this guy had did when he murdered my sister, calling, playing on the phone, asking for my sister, when he knew he murdered her, he's asking for her on the phone. Is Angela there laughing? And then we wasn't even able to look at this guy. I mean, it was the most ridiculous thing that I ever saw. But
wow,
that was an important question I wanted to ask you about courtroom management. And I hope you remember this story when you're elected. I
have a story of my own. When I was in county court, I remember going to a bathroom and this guy that was a defendant followed me and called me a house N-word. And so, I went back into the courtroom and I told the judge, and the judge went and got the bailiff and dragged him right back in there so that he could let him have it about it. And so it really just depends on the judge.
Yeah.
You're not about to call me that, and I'm not going to say anything about it. So.
Right.
And I don't blame you either. I don't blame you. So, and and I wanted to share that little experience I had about courtroom management. So, let's move on over to community and public trust.
And I wanted to ask one question before we go. I look. I'm an ID discovery, and I'm a Trekkie on that, a freak, just love to watch that type of a junkie, not a freak, the junkie. I'm a junkie that loves to watch crime shows. I mean, that's all I probably look at. And I was just wondering, is there ever, besides that case you talked about earlier, was there ever a case that had you up at night, like just thinking about it? Just one case, one or two cases that just had you like just couldn't sleep about it. Something just probably didn't feel right, and you was up at night.
I have quite a few cases. I mean, over 10 years dealing with crime, there's some things that do keep you up at night, whether it's the facts of the case or the trial that you're in, because the day doesn't end when you're in trial. You're in trial from when it starts on Monday until whenever it ends. And, you're up wondering like, okay, is this witness going to do what they they said they were going to do, are they going to say? Because a lot of times we put people on the stand, and then what they stated in their statement may be different to what they say on the stand. And so it's like,
Yeah.
okay, they gonna think I didn't, change the evidence or whatnot. So there's things that do keep you up at night. There was this one case that bothered me where it dealt with someone who was, I think he was 20 years old at the time. In the state of Florida, we have this youth offender law where the offense could file it, and you could be sentenced under the guidelines with a maximum of about 6 years of prison, or no, it's 4 years of prison, 2 years of probation, but it wouldn't be the full exposure. This kid was chasing another kid with the safety off the gun, and he almost shot him, but the gun jammed. So he was looking at like 30 years. It was a first-degree felony. And during the departure, the mom of the victim was on there crying, like, I could have lost my son, this, that, and that, and that. And the judge had granted the downward departure. And, I was just thinking, it would keep me up like, okay, was that the right decision? Like, this kid could have actually killed this kid, and the entire thing was caught on Ring camera.
Oh,
And
wow.
nowadays, our juveniles, they commit these crimes and they record everything, every single thing. I had another case where this kid was like 14 years old, and these two girls knock on the doors like, hey, come downstairs, you want to play. He was someone who struggled with his sexual identity. And when he got down there, it was like 20 boys, and they jumped him, and they would call him all type of homophobic slurs. And the entire thing was on Snapchat. And it's like, you just sit and like, what you think about the community and like, okay, where are we going? And so those type of things do keep me up, because it's like, why did you do that? Like, did y'all have to do that? And then you recorded it.
Right.
So yeah.
That's that generation out there now. They can watch. They'll be sitting watching a person drown, and they can swim, but they'll sit there and hold that camera and watch that person struggling before they run out and try to save them. That's where we at now, apparently.
Yeah, like, everything is on camera. So I'm like, well, thank you for the evidence, but
you giving them you all the evidence to prosecute them. So they don't think about that,
Right.
Yeah.
So again, let's move over into community and public trust. A lot of people don't have a whole lot of trust in the justice system. They don't, especially Black people, that come down, people that look like us. They somehow, feel like they won't get a fair trial and everything. And I know once I don't think I felt like that, but it's intimidating to go down to a courthouse. Let me put it that way. So my question it leads me to my question. Public confidence is in the judiciary is essential. What will you do to strengthen that trust? The judicial system.
I think it's
what can you do to strengthen it?
Right. I think it's very important that, judges are servants of the community. I mean, this community is the one who is paying their salary. And one of the things that I love about my job is that not only am I the chief of our hate crimes unit, I'm the chair of the hate crimes task force for Broward County. And I'm also a part of the Broward Sheriff's Office Social Justice Task Force. And on those task forces, I've had the opportunity to facilitate town halls throughout Broward County to discuss the very issue of how to file a case, what are hate crimes, how to prosecute the case, and to hear directly from the community about their issues with the public, trust in criminal justice system. And, a lot of times, you just sit there, and sometimes the community just needs a vent, and you just got to like listen and just let them go off, because a lot of times they don't know how to prosecute these cases. They don't understand the rights that they have. And they're not reporting these crimes, and then they believe that, no one wants to help them. But it really is just the lack of education when it comes to how to, report a crime. And I think that in order to build that public trust, that we have to consistently still be out in the community discussing how to the legal rights that they have and how to prosecute these cases, how to bring a claim, how to, if you're facing landlord-tenant issues, how to, seek the resources, what is available to you, what are your rights. I don't think we have enough programs or enough opportunities for organizations to go out into to the community and to discuss that with our community, or people showing up when people do organize these things to discuss. And, you know, being in the judiciary, I don't believe that, you know, I will hope that the first time that someone comes to court isn't the first time that they saw this judge. I hope that, you know, during the election process, that they've looked up judges and participated in the democracy of voting, because it's very important. And I understand that judges are often overlooked for the partisan candidates because of the issues that are happening. But for too long, we look at the news and we see a ruling that upsets the entire community. But then as the question is, have you looked into voting for your judges? Have you looked into their backgrounds? Are you voting to maintain the judge? Are you making your complaints known to the right governing bodies regarding the judge? You know, the judges have a direct impact on the community. And I think that, you know, the community should hold their feet to the fire. You know, we are at the service of the community. As a prosecutor, I am at the service of the community. And when there is a case that the community doesn't like, then they raise hell about it. And so, and I think that the same thing should be beholden to the judiciary. You guys vote us into these positions. We work for you. And so I think that the voices of the community should be heard a lot more when it comes to the judiciary. However, me personally, I already do the work in the community, and I don't see myself stopping doing the work in the community. I am dedicated. I love speaking with people, which is why I wanted to do the county court instead of the circuit court, because in county court is a lot more array of people. We have a lot more cases, and I know how to work under those type of demands.
Yeah, and that leads me to like what you were saying, kind of what you were saying. How do you respond to criticism of judicial decisions? How would you respond to it?
I mean, if I'm a judge,
Right.
I would respond, you know, you take it, you know, just like if you criticize me as a prosecutor, I take constructive criticism and I look at it. And if it's credible and it's something that I could change or reason with, you know, I take that into consideration. I would seek out mentors of like judges who have already been on the bench for a long period of time to see how they've handled certain situations. You know, also continue with education with the judicial colleges and conferences, making sure that I'm up to date on everything. But my goal is to continuously be the best that I can be and contribute the best that I can to Broward County. And that would be, you know, being up on the case law. The case law is ever changing. If a judge tells you that, oh, I don't have to look at it, then I would question that, because the laws change all the time. Every time they go to Tallahassee, there's a new law that you have to study. And so being able to study those laws and apply them, I think that it's really important that we continuously be students of our craft, and that includes judges.
And you answered. I mean, you answered. It's like you know what I'm gonna ask. You answered, because I was gonna ask you, how would you keep up on the law?
CEUs.
You know, and you answered all of that. Continue with education. So you answered.
That's why y'all should vote for
me. I tell you, you're clicking on all cylinders. I tell you, man, they're gonna love you when they watch this interview, even though it was interrupted by the devil. But we're doing okay. Yeah. And on the ballot, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I believe when it's time to go to the polls and vote, I believe that they don't tell you enough information about these judges. This is the reason why we have this podcast interview, to let the people see who Veronica Walker is, you know, and look at the interview and look at the question that we're asking you, and to hear how you're responding to them, and your demeanor, how calm you are, and again, when you get that to the poll, it's only going to say, should I retain this judge, or should you not retain this? That's why you have to do your homework. And I hope the people out there are watching this interview, because again, you've been clicking on all cylinders, and you're doing a very good job despite the little glitch we had there. And we will do a do-over too. And I have one more question for you myself. about that. How would you respond if you believed a fellow judge was had acted unethically? How would you respond if you knew a judge was acting unethical?
Then
Fellow
there needs to be a conversation. You know, of course, it wouldn't be something that's public, but if I saw that, just like as an attorney, judges have a responsibility when they see attorneys acting unethically, to take them to the side and have that discussion, and then they may be required to contact the Florida bar to report that unethical behavior. However, when it comes to judges, that is huge because of, like we stated before, the impact that they have on the community. And, that could go all the way back if it comes to something like sentencing or, bias or the lack of independence. I would have that discussion first with them, then probably the chief judge, and then explore what to do next, because it might be required that I have to report it to the Judicial Qualifications Committee, and that's something that that's the governing body for that. So I hope that doesn't happen, but if things like that do happen, so
yeah, and
answer.
They'll probably report me.
And I got two more questions for you. Yeah. You finished, Daryl?
Yeah, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah. Ms. Walker, what distinguishes you from your opponent?
Yeah. I have jury trial experience. I'm the only person in this race that have jury trial experience. What distinguishes me is my experience. I feel that, there's no one like me on the bench right now. I'm a prosecutor. I have the experience. I have the life experience. And I think that when we're electing judges to the bench, we're electing their character, their integrity. And I'm someone that has built my career dedicated to service. And so for me, I think it's really important that you have someone that's on the bench that has the temperament, that has the control, that is able to treat people fairly, that has kindness and could treat people with, dignity and respect when they come into the courtroom. My years of being a prosecutor has given me much more experience than I would if I did 20 plus years in private practice, due to the fact that I'm in court every single day and I'm before every single judge, misdemeanor and in felony courtrooms. And so I think that what I have is unique, especially being in the hate crimes unit. I have the opportunity to interact with all types of cultures. And so when I'm on the bench, I understand the Jewish community. I understand the Muslim community. I understand the LGBTQ+. I understand the Latin. I understand the different colloquialisms that each culture brings. And I can help with understanding the facts of the case or the story that's being relayed to you because I am in the community. And I think that sets me apart in my race. And I think that because of all of those reasons, that I am the better candidate for county court judge.
Well, you answered my second question, all in that one there. But have you got any major endorsements? Can you list some of your like civic organizations or something that you're a part of?
I am a part of the TJ Reddick Bar Association, the Black Women Lawyers Association, part of the Broward Bar Association and the National Bar Association. I'm a member of the NAACP. I am the Vice President of Social Justice and Legislative Action for the National Black Prosecutors Association. I have been endorsed by the Sun Sentinel. I have been endorsed by the Police Benevolent Association. I have been endorsed by Bless Broward. I have been endorsed by Florida Rising. I have been endorsed by Hispanic Vote. I have been endorsed by, there's one more. I know I'm missing it. Hold on. I want to make sure I did all of them.
The Virgil Hawkins Bar Association?
I am a member of the Virgil Hawkins, and I've been endorsed by AFL-CIO, which is the union service organization.
Mm-hmm. And again, I know you answered this, but what message would you leave with voters who are undecided right now in this race?
The message that I would leave with voters who are undecided. That's a good question. If you are undecided about the race, I ask that you look into my background. You look into my opponent's background. Everything is public record. We're attorneys. Our cases are public record. You can go onto the clerk's office and pull our cases and see what the work that we have done and the type of areas of practice we have done. I have been dedicated to this community, and I knew when I graduated law school that I didn't want to go into private practice. I wanted to work for you guys. I wanted to work for Broward County, and I haven't deterred from that way. I'm not looking to go into private practice. I'm just looking to go and serve Broward in a different capacity. I know that I have the character to benefit the bench, and I know that I will treat everyone with dignity and respect. It is kind of difficult sometimes to campaign as a judicial candidate because there's so many rules. We must run as nonpartisan. That means that, I can't speak to political issues. I can't identify whether I'm Democrat or Republican or independent. It is strictly nonpartisan to protect the integrity of the judiciary and so that there's an objective opinion. And so on August 18th and during early voting, it doesn't matter your party affiliation, everyone gets to vote for the judge and everyone gets to vote for the school board members because it's nonpartisan races. Our history has shown us that the fight has been too hard for us to vote. And I would hate for us not to exercise that right. Too many people died for us. And I think that for us to silence ourselves by not participating in the voting process is quite disappointing. But I do hope that you do, exercise this right of yours and that you register, that you go and you vote and you look into the candidates because we work for you. You hold us accountable,
Right.
So please don't sit this race out. It's too important.
Do you have anything else before I close her out?
That is it.
Okay.
That's all. You know what?
No.
You did an excellent job. You
Yeah.
answered every question. I mean, I had questions here, and you answered them.
You did
just
very
went right
well. You
into
just went
answering
right
them,
into
so.
the next question on a lot of them. So you
Yeah.
did very well. And you kind of did it here. I was going to give you 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I can still do it. Yeah, I can still give you your 2 minutes like I give everybody else. And
I
matter
don't
of
think
fact,
I would
I'm gonna
need
give
the whole 2 minutes because I feel like I have been, I said it
Covered it.
throughout the interview
Yes.
about
Yeah.
who I am,
Wow.
Yeah,
right.
who you are, because I was going to give you 2 minutes to tell the voters why they should vote for you, but you've done that. So just tell everybody out there, how could they
social media,
find you on social media? How could they donate to your campaign and your website and everything if they want to look it up? If they don't do the phones and social media, looking on YouTube and everything, how could they donate to your and find you on social media and donate to your campaign?
Okay, so I am on social media. I am a millennial. I post all the time. I'm on Instagram. You can find me at Veronica, the number 4 judge on Instagram, and Veronica Walker for County Judge on Facebook. To learn more about me, you could go to my website at veronica4judge.com, and you will find all of my information there. So I am definitely active on social media. I try to post all the time. I try not to post so much because, we can't help ourselves, but you will definitely find people.
Well,
you did an excellent job.
We have an IG
Thank
page,
you.
and we'll be looking you up on IG. We do again apologize for the power outage. We didn't have any control over that, and we were doing so good. And if you want to come back on before the August 18th election, you are more than welcome. We'll give you 30, 45 minutes. And tell everybody when is early voting. Early voting starts when?
Yes. So if you register to get your vote by mail, you should have it in the ballot now. I mean, in the mailbox now, or it should be coming to you soon. The last day to register to get a mail-in ballot is August 6th. Now, Early voting begins on August 8th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. through August 16th. And then the election day is August 18th. So we are less than 20 days away, 20 days to win it. And I just ask that you please share my campaign and my candidacy with your friends and family. Tell 5 people and ask them to tell 5 people. I really hope that I have gained your support in your vote. That is my desire, and it's my desire to serve you guys as your next county court judge. Thank you so much.
Wow. Well done. You did a good job.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you here on our podcast, and thank you so very much for answering those tough questions. We believe they're tough questions. We put a lot of thought into these questions. So,
and I love the stories.
And the stories
were excellent. So, hey. Thank you.
Okay, we've been talking to Veronica N. Walker. She's going to be on the ballot on August the 18th. She's running for Broward County Judge, Group 11. And she's asking for your vote, and you did very well. And I think you're well on your way to being the next county court judge. So thank you for being on our podcast, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Good interview.
And hang on one moment. We want to talk to you off air for a moment.
Okay.